Hey guys, this is Tauna. Today we've got heaps and heaps of new Commander announcements. This is really exciting. I'm actually insanely happy with the way they've gone about this and the way that they're doing this all the new stuff that they've announced. So today we've got information on big announcements for Commander, including the game changes, which is a soft ban / points list, kind of like Canadian Highlander, that's going to be used with the brackets, which is the next point down. We got some bans and unbans discussion and lots of great stuff. Before we get into it though, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share the video around, all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I didn't get this information early to have it ready prior to the streams and stuff getting, shared around. So a whole bunch of people have already made videos on this. So hopefully it's kind of like slightly less than instant speed. Someone, used a split second card before me and now I'm instant speed. We've got deck coverage. We've got all that kind of stuff as well. And apologies as well. I've been going through a lot of stuff in our IRL. So I have not been making as many videos lately, but hopefully that's going to be fixing and stuff, new job, a whole bunch of other stuff that I don't want to talk about. But yeah, I also messaged the winners for our giveaway as well and sending the rewards later this month. So let's get into it. We've got the new bracket system beta. I think they called it Commander Brackets Beta. Exactly. There's a primary goal is to make it just easier for matchmaking. And this is the primary thing that was kind of announced today. It's going to make it easier to have those rule zero conversations because you can come to the table and you can be like, my deck is a 3. Right? My deck is bracket 3. And that is a set list of bracket, like with actual cards that are not allowed and cards that are allowed, etc. Now for most people this isn't going to affect them. You'll still be able to go down to your friend group and be like playing whatever deck you want, but this is going to be helping for if you go to your LGS and your LGS is using it, or if you go to a Commander Comic-Con or Magicon, that kind of stuff. So lots of, ways to be able to make use of it. And it's meant to be like a tool to use, essentially. They're specifically calling it a beta because they want to iterate it based off of feedback, and all that feedback can go over to the Magic the Gathering Discord channel and stuff. Or you can pass it along to your favorite person who's on the Commander Committee, like mine is Attack on Cardboard, an Australian who is absolutely amazing. Late April, there's going to be a more finalized version of this, and then there's going to be unbanned announced. Then no bans going to be announced, but they did announce some stuff that will very likely be unbanned, which is pretty cool. So these are our brackets going forward, and my head is in the way slightly from that one there. So this is essentially our new bracket system. I'll go through each of them as we're going, but you can tell, this one here, 1 is like our lowest, most casual kind of deck, and then 5 is our CEDH1. And I'll talk about each of them individually coming up. Before we get into it though, just to divine a few things, the mass land denial that they state within, 1, 2, and 3 is these kinds of things. So 1, land destruction, mass land destruction. We've got Blood Moon, stuff that turns people's lands into other lands. So Blood Moon, assumedly stuff like the Mages of the Moon and the new Harbinger of the Seas and that kind of stuff that makes it so people's lands, they can't use them properly. And stuff like Winter Orb, I think he specifically said stuff that allows them to not untap 4 lands or stop 4 lands or beyond, essentially. So that's what they talk about when they talk about mass land denial. That's 3 different things: land destruction, making it so people's lands can't tap for what color they want, and making it so people's lands can't untap. And then we've also got the game changers. So this is a list of cards that are on the watch list. However, it's unlikely that most of them will be banned. So don't go trading away your cards out of concern or anything like that. So these are cards that generally warp the game when they're played. They're incredibly strong cards. And for certain brackets, you can only have so many of them. So, like brackets 1, 2, you can't have any. Bracket 3, you can have 3 of them. And then 4, you can have as many as you want. It's a way for them to be able to unban things as well. So, stuff like Jeweled Lotus or a couple other cards that we'll talk about a little bit later on. They can unban those cards, put them onto the games changes list, and then you're limited into how many you can use, as well as the fact that, if you sit down at a table, you can be like, hey, so mine has these 3 different ones from this game changes list, or mine has none in the games changes list, or, mine only has this one from the games changes list, but beyond that, it's still only a bracket 2. It's meant to be, just a way to be able to help the conversation with the game changers, and they're set cards that can kind of be talked about. Sol Ring could technically be on this list, but because of Sol Ring, they didn't add it on because, it's essentially a staple of Magic, right? A staple of Commander. It's huge. It's everywhere. Everyone uses it, and it's Sol Ring. So this is the list of different cards. So I'll go into, they put up a article about it not long after this video. And then also, they had in the article kind of reasoning as to behind all of them, but most of the cards I think kind of make sense as to why they're on here. Maybe I'll do just a separate video kind of analyzing them all. So these up here, they're Enlightened, Mystic, Demonic, Vampiric, Imperial, and Survival of the Fittest are all best in class tutors, and people use them to be able to tutor up whatever they want. Specifically, they tutor like things that your deck's going to be wanting, or that they're the best version of that kind of tutor. We've got Dranith, we've got Opposition Agent, Trinisphere, Glacial Chasm, and the Tabernacle. They are to lock your opponents out from being able to do things. We've got some in here that are insanely fast mana. So Chrome Mox, Grim Monolith, Mox Diamond, Mana Vault, and Ancient Tomb, all very fast mana pieces. Down here, the kind of Smothering Tithe, Trouble in Pairs, the kind of stacksy pieces that give you a whole bunch of mana value. We've got One Ring, Bolus, and stuff. Vorinclex is like a combination between Mana Denial as well as Ramp, right? It's pretty crazy. Lion's Eye, Underworld Breach, and Ad Nauseam. They're Storm and combo pieces that usually get up to no good. We've got Gaia's and Sarah's just insane mana. Thassa's Oracle, we already know about Thassa's. It's just a huge 2-card combo. We've got Cyclonic Rift. Yeah, I think that most of these make sense. Expropriate. We've got Jin Gitaxis is probably the one that is the most questionable, I guess, on this list, in my opinion. But also, it is a very strong card if you cheat it out or reanimate it. If you're just playing it normally, then it's not too bad. But if you're like, in black and you bury it alive and then reanimate it, boom. We got Fierce Guardianship and Force of Will, the best versions of the free combos, free counterspells. And then there is some commanders on here, but generally these are the commanders that are just insanely strong. Kinnan, Yuriko, Winota, Grand Arbiter, Tergrid, and Urza. Even if you're not using them as your commander, they are, still pretty strong in your 99, but still really, really great, right? Like I've got Tergrid in my 99 for my winter, my Jund winter group hug deck, because of the fact that it makes people discard a whole bunch. So then I get to just reanimate all that stuff, and it's a win con within that deck. And it's just, if I didn't have that card in there, that deck would definitely still not be if I did have that card in there, it would definitely not be a bracket 2. So this kind of pushes it up to a bracket 3. So yeah, I'm actually really, really, really happy with this. Like, this is actually just really great. Having this kind of soft ban list that essentially acts as similar to, as I said, like the Canadian Highlander point system, where your deck, based off of how many of these it has, is based off of how strong it is and stuff. So we'll go into the actual bracket so you can see what I mean. So bracket 1 is your exhibition deck. So these are just meant to be your showing off cool things decks, not necessarily or not very likely made to win. They're thematic, they're fun decks, they're lower power than precons generally, and they have silly stuff as well in here, like, women that look right, or buff beefy men, or whatever you want in there. So in this, you've got none of your game changer cards, you've got no 2-card infinite combos, no mass, land, denial, or extra turns. So absolutely no extra turns cards within here. And then very few tutors. So keep in mind that some of the tutors are on this game changers list. The ones that aren't on that, so like Fabricate and stuff like that, are technically allowed within bracket 1, but generally you want them to be thematic if they're there. So then we've got bracket 2. So this is core. This is generally where the level of precons will be released. However, they did also say Secret Lair and like Modern Horizons decks are different to this. They don't need to, like, they will definitely not be a core 2, or definitely unlikely to be core 2. They don't need to kind of go around here or anything like that. Now, they also said that, while your deck may fit technically into the bracket 2, it could technically be a bracket 3 if it's optimized. So in here, you've got no 2-card infinite combos. So, no Sanguine Bond, Exquisite Blood, that kind of stuff. No chaining extra turns. Now, they said, you can have extra turns in here. So, you can still have your extra turns card in there, but it's no chaining it. So, casting it multiple times, or, casting it and then copying it and stuff like that. Like, you are generally not meant to be using extra turns to have, like, 2, 3, 4 turns in a row. Still no mass land denial. and very few tutors as well here. So, still the tutors are not the ones on the game changers, but, stuff like Fabricate, as I said. All right, getting into our upgraded. So this is an upgraded Precon level, so bracket 3. So this will have stuff like late game 2-card combo. So this is where your Sanguine Bond, Exquisite Blood kind of comes into it. We've got 3 game changers in here. So you can choose 3 cards from the list that we showed before. I should have probably copied this down further in here. So 3 cards from this one into your deck, and you would still be considered in a bracket 3 deck. Still no chaining extra turns, because that's kind of getting to the high power kind of stuff, and still no mass land denial. So this is going to also just allow you to start introducing the game changers. Keep in mind that if you do have 1 game changer in your deck is technically a bracket 3. Now, that does not mean you can't play against bracket 2 people. It just means that when you go to the table to play, you have to be like, well, you don't have to be. It would be preferable if you said, hey, I'm going to be playing this bracket 3 deck, but it's only a bracket 3 because it's got this Urza in it, but that Urza is only in it because of the fact that, I built an artifact cool deck, right? Like, that's the kind of thing that it's meant to enable. It's meant to make that kind of rule 0 thing easier, because I don't know the amount of times that I've kind of gone to my LGS and I've sat down and they've been like, oh yeah, this is Precon level. And I'm like, okay, but like my deck's a slightly upgraded Precon level. I don't think that it's going to be like, I don't know how much further away it is from yours, essentially. Like, 2 people can upgrade a Precon. One could take it into, like, if you upgrade a quick draw Precon, you could upgrade that into a 4. If you upgrade, like say a Bumbleflower Precon, you could just leave it as a 3, right? Like, yeah. So it's meant to just make that conversation easier. So most decks will fit within, bracket 3 or bracket 2. We've also got bracket 4 above that. This is no restrictions other than the ban list. So this is, you take your commander, you build the best version of that deck. It's meant to be super high powered version of that deck, but it's still not CEDH, right? Like, it's kind of the step below CEDH. This is high powered commander. You're building an amazing list. And then you get into bracket 5 where it's actual CEDH. Now, there is no actual difference between the cards that are allowed in bracket 4 and bracket 5. There is no difference to the brackets there, like in regards to the cards that are there. However, there is a fundamental difference if you're building a bracket 4 and a bracket 5 deck. If I'm building a bracket 5 deck, I'm looking at the best of the best of the commander, all the cards that are within it, everything. To the point that money doesn't really matter for it, because I'm just going to build the best version of it. There is a huge power gap still between bracket 4 and bracket 5. But, that's the kind of thing that you have to discuss when you sit down. I've got this deck. It's a bracket 4. Not a bracket 5, and then other people, this way people can say, their deck is CEDH compared to bracket 4, and, that kind of increases that separation between the two, because there is a huge difference between them. So this is one thing that they said here. My best deck has no game changes in it and is technically a bracket 2. Should I play it there? So that's just what I was saying before, is that while your deck may be technically a bracket 2, that does not mean it is bracket 2 level. And I'll talk about that in a little bit when I look at my decks, is that sometimes your deck may still be a bracket 4, despite the fact that it technically fits within the thing of bracket 2. That is on you to tell people that your deck is a bracket 4, not a bracket 2. If you want to go along and curb stomp people with your bracket 2 deck because you've optimized your bracket 2 deck to the point that it's, insane, go ahead. I'm not going to judge you too much, but you've been a little bit of a dick then. So changes to the precons. Obviously, one thing is that these game changes have shown up within precons, or some of them, especially Jeska's Will showed up. Like, that's a big thing as well, is that Jeska's Will has showed up in, I think, 2 precons so far. And if you compare those 2 precons, there is a mile of difference between them. You've got the Disguise precon from MKM. Now, that is obviously a bracket 2 deck. That is easily a bracket 2 deck, and that's likely, where it is. It's the bracket 2, despite the fact that it's got that. And they can still print these game changes within precons, right? They're not going to just say, hey, no, it's not going to be in here. It's still while it would be printed as technically a bracket 3 deck, it's like bracket 2, but it's got Jeska's in it, basically. But yeah, the 2 that had the Jeska's Will in it was the Disguise precon from MKM, which wasn't insanely great. It was still a good deck, and I enjoyed it a lot. It's one of my, decks that I've got here, but it wasn't insane. And then the other one was the Exit from Exile deck. Now, that one's probably kind of reaching up to a bracket 3. It was a crazy, crazy deck. So bracket 2 is the average for a Precon, but they still may allow some bracket game changers to be printed in them. They're not going to be designing around brackets anytime soon. And they also might print, in the future, once the bracket system's kind of, edged out a little bit more and stuff, they may print Precons into brackets. So, they might print a Precon and say, this is a bracket 1 Precon. That's just a silly, turtle kindred deck kind of thing, right? It's not meant to be great. Or the opposite. They may go, here's a bracket 4 Precon that has been printed because, and we've pulled from this, high powered commander person stuff or something. Like, they could just do different things and print to the different brackets, which is really cool. I like that idea. And also, this is like the Precon being bracket 2 is only referring to actual base sets. Again, not referring to Secret Lair or Modern Horizons. It's kind of Precons, they can be different. So potential unbans, they talked about potentially unbanning Coalition Victory. And they said that was one that is very likely on that kind of list to have a look at, depending on what people think, and put into the game changers. So the whole point of this is we've got the unbans. These are no, do not play. We will spank you if you play them. Then below that, we've got the game changers, which are, these are ones that you can tentatively play and have a limited number of if you've got, a bracket 3 deck. So one thing with the cards that are banned at the moment is that in a casual game, they are shit, but in a more competitive game, like, once you get up to competitive, like bracket 4 and bracket 5, then they're going to be less impactful. They're still going to be really great, but by the time you get to bracket 4 and 5, people know what they're going against, so it makes more sense. So that's the kind of thing, is that they can potentially move them down from bans down to game changers. And they talked specifically about Coalition Victory and Primeval Titan as being on that potential list to kind of go down, which is really cool and really interesting. We already seen people picking up Coalition Victory for cheap because of the fact that it may be unbanned. So if you want it, I suggest picking it up potentially, unless they're going to reprint it or something. I don't think it's on the restricted list, so it potentially can be reprinted. And there's multiple bans may be unbanned in April because the game changes exist now. They said, late April, they're going to look at unbanning stuff. So I'm going to go analyze my decks now. So this is my list of 40 odd decks, and yes, I have a problem. We're going to go through some of my decks here because I wanted to kind of talk about it. So let's talk about the Wolverine deck. Now, having a look in this deck, it is a relatively decently strong power deck. And at the moment, Architect has built in the estimated bracket. So this is estimating it as a bracket 1 or 2. Now, I don't currently, if I just bring up the list over here, I don't currently have any mass land denial or anything like that. I don't think I even have any combos within this one. I don't have any game changes. So if you want to check your combos, because currently Architect isn't doing combos, you can go in here, click combos, and click included. And see, I don't have any combos in here at the moment. So that means that it's either a bracket 1 or 2. It's likely a bracket 2 because, it's not just a silly deck. It's a pretty strong, relatively, deck. And at the moment, I'm putting it at bracket 2. But, after I play around with it, I might bump it up to a bracket 3. Then we go into my Aminatu deck. So this is a deck that's built around the Aminatu Precon, an upgraded version of that. And it's, purely just making use of Aminatu and that top deck and, heart of the cards kind of stuff. And these are all my upgrades for it. Now, in this one, it's got an estimate bracket of 3. This is purely because of the fact that it's got Smothering Tithe and Trouble in Pairs in it. Both are on that, both are on the game changers list. And honestly, yeah, I can understand why that is there. If I go in here, I can have a look at the combos as well. I think I have some combos in here. Yeah, I've got Archon and Secret Arcade. I've got Secret Arcade and Ghostly Dancers. I've got Secret Arcade combos, basically 3 of them. So yes, I'm going to put this one and set it as a 3 because it's definitely a 3 because it's got, 2 card combos and game changers. Now, my Iron Man one. This one is interesting. So my Iron Man one, I don't think I actually have any combos in here. Oh, no, I do have combos. I've got Brass's Bounty and Mechanized Production. Oh, I've got Mechanized Production and Masterful Replication. That's right. So, I've got 2-card combos that are late game, and I've got Urza. Now, can I have 2-card combos as a part of this? No. And that's infinite combos though. Those aren't technically infinite combos. They're like win the game combos. But still, we've also got the Urza in here. So if I went and dropped Urza and then dropped the Mechanized Production, I could drop this deck down to a 3. Down to a 2. But I'm going to keep it as a 3 for now because I think it is a 3. And I'd rather play it as a kind of higher power deck. So yeah, Mechanized Production combos with the Masterful Replication, which is also an instant. That's actually really great. And then also combos with the Brass's Bounty there. My Optimus Prime deck is a 3 though. However, that 3 is because of the Urza, right? Now, I don't think that this deck will play at a 3 level. I think it's only a 3 because of this Urza. I think I could drop that Urza to turn it into a 2, or I could just keep the Urza in there, and then when I sit down, just be like, hey, my deck's a 2, but it's got this Urza in it. But the Urza's in it because it synergizes well with the fact that it's all artifacts and stuff. So I'm just going to leave that one as a 3 at the moment, and I'm going to test around with it. It's also, actually, it's got my Smothering Tithe in it as well, so it does have 2 cards in it. I don't want to take my Smothering Tithe out. Anyway, we've also got my Lesbian Detectives here. So this one here is a 1 or a 2. If we have a look at the combos here, I always kind of bring up the combos because I think that that's, I don't actually include any combos here. I thought I did have some. What? Oh, no. This one doesn't have any combos. So yeah, this one doesn't have any combos. It doesn't have any thing from the ban list or anything like that. From the game changers list. So that's just 2. And then finally we get to my Edward one. So this is the one that I want to kind of talk about here, especially when you refer to Architect at the moment, because at the moment, if you have a look at this deck, it is showing it as a 2, right? A 1 or a 2. It's not a 1, so it's a 2, because it's not just a silly fun deck. It's a deck. So at the moment, this is a 2. However, when you actually have a look at the cards and stuff like this is not a 2 power level deck. Once I optimize it a bit more, maybe it kind of will be a 3 hardcore, but I still think it's 3 at the moment, because if you have a look at the combos, this one here is an infinite combo. So that specifically, no chaining extra turns is 3, so that's a 4. Yeah, even here, no chaining extra turns. This is chaining extra turns, so it has to be a 4 because of that. I'd have to drop the time sieve for it. So yes, that one is a 4 just because I can chain the extra turns with it, and that's pretty easy to pull off, right? I just need Edward and then some vehicles and pirates and assassins to get tapped, and then I just have to make 5? Just have to make 5 treasures, and then boom, I can take an extra turn. So yeah, so like having a look at my decks. Oh, last one here. So this is my Yuma deck. I didn't think my Yuma deck was going to be quite as strong, and then I saw the fact that it's got no mass land denial, still all the way up here in 3. So because of the fact that I've got this 1 mass land destruction, which is bust, it is a 4 as well, because it's just got that big kind of combo. Like the whole point of this, like the mass land destruction in here, is because of the fact that I've got Yuma, so I can destroy all of my own lands, and then everyone else's lands, and then I create heaps of plant warriors, and then I've got ways to be able to bring back my lands from the graveyard while others don't. So I guess that kind of does make it a 4, like just because of that. But this is the Precon that was upgraded as well. Like it's upgraded a fair bit. I think there's like 30-ish cards changed or something, but still a Precon that was upgraded. So, it's sitting at a 4. So that's the kind of thing that I wanted to kind of say, is that I like the system. I think it's a great system. There's going to be some times where your deck is technically a 3, but it doesn't play a 3 level. It's more like a 2 because you've got, 1 game changer that's pushed it up. Or there's times where, your deck is a 2, but it's playing at a 4 level. So it's the whole point of it is to kind of allow that conversation to be easier. And I think this pulls it off great. But that's it for today, guys. Have a great day and goodbye.